Hello, Assalamu alaikum everyone, and good morning to all of you. I'm Dr. Fazia Gulab, Assistant Professor in Education Department at IOPM. Our guest today is Mr. James Simmons. Mr. James is Academic Coordinator at Notre Dame Institute of Education. He has done his master's from US and is serving as teacher educator at Notre Dame. Welcome, James, for this session. I'm very happy to have you here, and IOBM is happy to get your views on the topic of today.
Yes, good morning. Thank you so much for having me, and it's my joy to talk with you about this topic of ethical tech use in education.
Thank you. So we are going to talk today about integration of technology, ethics, education, and teacher education. And I suppose you are expert in those areas, so that's why we sought your assistance or your opinion about these matters. So I would like you to begin by telling me why should we integrate technology into education?
Great question. In the 21st century, technology is a great equalizer. It gives students who maybe live in rural areas the same access to high quality educational materials as students that live in a large urban area where accessing technology is easier. There's more and more ed tech startups that are really making incredible technologies like Khan Academy. And so getting those tools into the hands of students from under-resourced backgrounds is really an important task for us as educators today.
Right. Okay. Yes. I agree with you what you are saying that we need to give tools in the hands of the children, and it's our responsibility. But see, from my experience, what I realize is students or children in the community or in our surroundings, they have those tools, they have technology, but then at least from my experience, I have not seen students being trained in using that technology. So what's your opinion?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. If students have a tool, but they're not trained on how to use it, one of two things could happen. Either it's not used to its full potential or it's used inappropriately, and it can have bad results. And so from my experience, both in early education and for teacher education, we really need to look at how can we encourage not just the use of technology, but the responsible and ethical use of technology.
Okay. So, James, suggest some ways. How should we tell? Because, see, if we look at the multitude of students, take case of any one school. So, it's not only training of students, but maybe parents also need some sort of training. So, for me, I find it quite difficult. How can we integrate? Do you have any idea, or can you suggest something systematic?
Sure.
Integration of technology into education for the learning of students.
Yeah, I think of this topic in three levels. There's the level of curriculum, which impacts the future teachers, and then there's the level of parent-teacher cooperation, and then there's the level of students and learning outcomes. So I think if we look at those three levels and discuss them, we can really have a good idea of, from top to bottom, how can we encourage the responsible, ethical use of technology?
Okay, right. Now you spoke about curriculum. So, can you little bit elaborate on that?
Sure. So, in Pakistan, for your bachelor's in education, there is the 4 and the 2.5 year program, depending on how many years of education you have. In the 4-year program, there's 2 courses that are focused on technology use, computer literacy, and information and communication technology. And for the 2.5-year program, there's just one, the ICT.
Okay.
However, the emphasis on ethics as it relates to using technology seems to be not emphasized, as there's a separate ethics course. So one suggestion could be figuring out how to incorporate the ethical use of technology embedded in the curriculum, so that as teachers learn the technology, they're also discussing the ethical use of technology. Who's making these resources? Are they making a profit? If they're making a profit, how are those people using the profit? And those sort of things. So at the curriculum level, I think we could look at how the HEC or others can really begin incorporating ethics into the scheme of studies. So future teachers are continually discussing ethics as they learn new technologies, or maybe making it a required course in their 4-year or 2.5-year program of ethics of technology, because this is one of our age's biggest talking points is that.
Okay, so you are saying that in curriculum, technology is already embedded.
That's right.
Right? In 1.5 or 2.5 year program, B.Ed program. So already there are courses. But then maybe the ethical part of using of technology is not there.
That's right.
So we might have to integrate that usage of technology in an ethical way that could be embedded into the teacher education programs. And other than that, I would like you to little bit share your thoughts about. We will be teaching the students, prospective teachers,
That's right.
about technology and ethics. But what do you think, seeing because I suppose you have good knowledge of different types of schools and the facilities in the schools with your experience as teacher educator at Notre Dame. So what I feel is okay, we can, prospective teachers could be taught. But what are the possibilities of learning technology by the students who are in early childhood or primary school or secondary school? So, a little bit your thoughts about that.
That's a great point. When we talk about early childhood or primary level students, the sooner that we can have them begin thinking about how they can use technology responsibly, the better that they will be able to have the relationship with technology. For example, teaching media literacy to young students, helping them understand, for example, on our shirts there's a logo. What does a logo mean? What company's logo is that? What do they do? Do they make money off of that? Helping students understand the idea of media literacy. What is true? What is not true? How do we look at information on the news, on the tablet? How do we see that something is good, true information? And how do we tell that this information is not good or not true? Teaching students how to not rely on technology too much. Research shows that students at an early age who use too much technologies can have some adverse effects, such as delayed language development. It affects their social skills. And so helping have that open conversation with students that just because we have YouTube or whatever doesn't mean that this is going to be the best thing for you. Let's talk about balancing those things with social interaction, outside play.
Very important. James, what you are saying, this is true that I also realize children early years or adolescents or young adults, whatever stage of development they are, they use technology a lot.
That's right.
But they, I think, learn it from trial and error. Right? So schools, at least in our country, or schools that I have been to, or maybe you might be able to say a little more about it. But from my knowledge, schools are not teaching. Schools normally create WhatsApp groups, or they will say Zoom meetings, all that. But integration of technology into their curriculum is maybe something that is missing.
Yes.
Right? And then, what should students do? Any ideas? Or what should schools or teachers or administration, like all the stakeholders? So you can talk about administration, teachers, even parents, like
Sure.
or policymakers. What should they do? Technology is so much in the air. Children are exposed to technology, but how should be they educated?
Sure, that's a great question. For administrators, being up to date with emerging technologies and how that affects how they deliver their content, I think is a real responsibility of administrators. For teachers, always being ready to upgrade, to learn the new skills that this year is not the same as last year, and last year is not the same as 20 years ago. So having that, as you teach here, that lifelong learning, I'm ready to learn a new technology, because these students will just use today's technology as a foundation 20 years later. Who can say? For parents, I think the teacher having a real positive impact on maybe traditional ideas of education, just having a conversation about education may not be all about marks. Let's keep talking about this together. I'm not just here to give your child a good mark. Let's have a conversation together. And the last is policymakers. They have a big role to play in aligning content, maybe open educational resource content, with standards that could be used in schools. And so, India in 2013, they did a really big project where policymakers, the Ministry of Education, and some ed tech startups came together, and they created this national repository of online educational resources, NROER. And it's available in 29 languages, including tribal languages, Hindi or English interface. It can be downloaded by students. So even in rural areas, they have access to these digital resources, which can be audio, visual, ebooks that they can flip, which encourages interaction by students. So these kind of case studies, we can learn a lot from, where when there's the good relationship between the government, policymakers, and universities and edtech startups, we can make a real big difference together. But it requires a lot of cooperation between everyone.
This is great. Like what I have understood from your responses, like, see, we talk about students only, that they need to be educated, they need to be taught, therefore we need to integrate technology and ethics of technology. But before we start that, even the administration. No?
Absolutely.
Administration needs to update their knowledge and skill in use of technology. And then we come down to teachers. So maybe some professional development, not only some, but I mean extensive professional development, right? Because technology, what I believe, is not only using social media, right? People are mostly competent in using social media, Facebook and WhatsApp and Instagram and all that. But technology for education, technology for teaching, technology for learning. So teachers also means need to be educated properly, how to use technology for imparting, for sharing, or for, getting students involved in the learning process. And then each teacher has to be trained differently. Each means different cohorts, like early care teachers will be like trained differently, and then primary school teachers and secondary school teachers, all that. And then parents also would be. Because see, everyone has to be educated.
Yes.
So parents, some sessions, at least awareness session, because sometimes I believe parents, they say there are no books in the school and what are you teaching and all that. So you rightly said that parents' education is also important, and then we finally come down to the students. So when, the administration, teachers, parents, they will know how technology help people or help students in learning process. So then we come down to the students and teach them how to like use different programs or different all those. So like do you any idea or do you have any suggestions offering to teachers who are maybe equipped with some sort of technological tools? If you have any, if you want to suggest anything, you may talk about that.
Yeah, sure. So for teachers who have some understanding of technology and want to keep growing, I think a real emerging topic that everyone is talking about, especially in education, is AI.
Okay.
How do we use AI? What are the outcomes of AI? Does it encourage critical thinking or does it encourage laziness and bad habits? At NDIE this semester, we're focusing on this assessment scale called the Artificial Intelligence Assessment Scale, or AIAS. It's developed by an Australian who's getting his PhD in how generative AI affects education and learning outcomes. And this scale, which goes from 1 to 5, has been adopted in K through 12 and universities around the world and has been used in UNESCO's, they have a digital week. So basically it outlines level 1 is no AI for this assignment, and level 5 is full AI. So one thing we're discussing with instructors and with students is less of more AI is good, less AI is bad, and more of the idea that not every assignment should include AI at the same level. What is the outcome for this assignment? And when we can look at that and teachers and students can come to this agreement, then they can decide, okay, yes, you can use AI for planning, or for this assignment, there's no AI. We need to see your foundational skills and knowledge. So it's really encouraging a more critical use of AI at our institute. Students have to declare, did they use AI? And if they did, they have to say how they used it. So students are becoming more responsible, and teachers are having a more constructive conversation with their students about, it's not that AI is bad, it's just that we need to use it at the appropriate level for the assignment that we're doing and for the learning outcomes that we're looking for.
This is good. Like as you were talking about, I was thinking like it's education of teachers and students simultaneously.
Yes.
So we may not have time to educate teachers and administrators and then come down to students. We may develop sort of model that we educate everyone simultaneously.
Yes.
And that will work because like if we will think about educating different stakeholders in different tiers, it will consume lots of time.
That's right.
Right? So which means by the time after a year or two, new technological tools will come. So what we will teach them might be updated after a short while. So this is good what you are doing at Notre Dame. Means teachers are doing it and students are doing it.
That's right. We're
And
learning
they-
together.
Yes, they are learning together. And at the same time, I suppose administration, it must have begun with the administration.
That's right, yeah.
And then, so you have already taken 3 stakeholders, administrators, teachers, and students. So maybe a little bit of parents also and policymakers might be like, they will get to know about all this through the work and then maybe some research in that area. Right. Now, James, one more thing. Why people consider, what's the misconception of using AI in education?
That's a really great question. I think one misconception about AI is that it knows everything. And the reality is that any sort of AI model, it only knows as much data as people train it to know. And AI can do something called hallucinate, where it is 100% sure that this is the right answer, but it's the wrong answer. And so it's really important for teachers and students alike to know that AI hallucinates, where you ask it a question and it gives you an answer as if that's 100% true, but actually it doesn't know the current data. Maybe up until April of last year was when this AI model was giving the data. So we should not be quick to trust too much, and we can always ask for it to give us the primary sources of what it's telling us. And if it can give us the primary sources and we can check, great. If it's not giving us good primary sources for its information, we should not be too quick to put our trust in AI.
So, I mean, maybe what you're trying to say is, like, we can get some sort of basic help from AI, but then develop on it. Because, I mean, what I believe is AI, okay, but ultimately we have to depend on books and research articles and research journals and all that. So that reading has to be. So do you think that will work? If like people get initial or little bit of like, a sort of raw data that we say from AI, especially research and otherwise also, in other students also, research students as well as other students, get sort of raw data from AI and then construct their own knowledge, like supported from the literature that is available.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think a model of where maybe the foundations where students have to learn by, they're learning keywords, they're learning how to search on Google Scholar, and then as they progress through their education, they're given more opportunities to use more technologies and not giving them all of the technology too fast, because at the end of the day, we depend on our own skills. When the internet is shut off, what is left?
Yes.
There's no chat GPT whenever there's load shedding. So we need to teach our students that at the end of the day, we just have our own skills. And it's those habits of finding good information supported by technology. Not
very important, James. Like what you said, that as teachers, we need to develop our skills. Not only skills in using technology, but our teaching skills also.
Yes.
Because technology can, technology can fail at any time.
That's right.
So if we are skilled as competent teachers, we can overcome all those failures.
Yeah,
this is good.
That's right.
So James, one more thing. As we were talking about, I was thinking, we have spoken about the content. We can take some help from AI. But what about technology and instructions? Or maybe next question could be then technology and assessment of students. So share your ideas about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of good opportunities to use technology for the assessment of students. For example, AI can help instructors make a good rubric that weighs the important things as the important things and the less important things as the less important things. We can use it to maybe a student has a conversation with a AI model that, like, for example, there's a website called School AI, and it's a host of sort of AI-powered resources for educators, and you can add a prompt, let's say for poetry and prose, and you're studying these 9 poems, and you want students to look at these things. So you can put in the prompt, and students can only discuss those things with AI, and you can assess the quality of their conversation, because the educator can get the summary of their conversation, they get the transcript of the conversation. So lots of real fun, creative ways to use technology for assessment that goes beyond just writing an essay or giving a presentation.
So maybe for assessment, for teaching strategies, we can get lots of ideas, innovative ideas from AI, from technology, all that. But for the content, the foundations, the teachers need to be competent. They need to develop their competency in terms of the content, as well as the competency of the students also. This is what I got from. If I'm wrong, you will correct me. But for teaching instructions, teaching strategies, we can rely on AI a lot, and it has some good sources. Is it?
Yeah, I've used it quite a bit whenever life happens and I have 10 minutes and I need to plan for my 1 hour class. I can ask it to give me a 1 hour lesson plan for this class on this topic. And it can generate a pretty good 1 hour lesson plan that includes warm up, lecture, guided practice, independent practice, and warm up. And I can modify it. And when I don't have time, it's really great to have a resource like that instead of an hour of students' time not being used well because I got stuck in traffic or something happened and I didn't have time to prepare. But again, it's coming to this technology, knowing how to write a good lesson plan where I can critically assess, is this a good lesson plan? Oh, no, I need to change this, change that. Okay, now we're good. If I didn't have that skill, I might uncritically use that lesson plan and it would not have a good outcome. So I'm always using my critical thinking, whether I'm making the lesson plan or not.
So which means our students, the prospective teachers that your organization and my organization is preparing, they need to learn the use of technology.
That's right.
But at the same time, they need to develop their own skills.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
because
right.
What I feel is like students now, they like to take shortcuts.
Mm.
So if you ask them to do lesson plan, they will go on any tool and get us ready-made lessons. But then it's not like... what I feel is like students or the teachers to be in future, they need to understand it's not getting the task done.
That's right.
It is like getting themselves equipped with the knowledge, skills, attitudes which are relevant to their subjects and relevant to their profession also.
That's right.
So, which means that we should not encourage students to take ready-made lesson plans, because I know like when students have to do objectives and aims and strategies, they find it very difficult. But that rigor, that struggle is the part of the process, and that is what then they learn how to do it. And then later on with experience, then you may rely on AI and all that.
Yeah,
right?
That's a great point. You know, if like in our 4 years, there's 4 opportunities for the teaching practice. So maybe the first 2 semesters, they're not using it. The third one, they have more. And then the last semester, they're really given a big use of how to use AI to do differentiation in your lesson. So make this content for beginner learners, make this content for intermediate learners, and then they can go into the classroom and have 2 versions of the same worksheet that took 10 seconds to make. So in my classrooms, that's probably one of the biggest advantages of AI is how it helps me know, okay, I have 4 learners advanced and 7 that are intermediate and 2 beginner. So I'll just make different versions of the same thing. I'll send it to them on Google Classroom and they can do their own version that helps them the best. So lots of good opportunities for this in the classroom.
Okay, great. So which means like it is easier for teachers to entertain the multiple intelligences in the class with the help of AI.
That's right. We don't have as many excuses as before to not do more accommodation and differentiation in our instruction when AI can really help us do those things.
So James, like let's talk about some of the like threats, right? What are the like threats or challenges of getting AI or technology into teaching? Challenges for teachers or for students or otherwise overall. So like...
Yes, I think the 2 biggest threats are over-reliance on AI and using it uncritically. So for the first point, I fear that if we don't come with skills, teachers will begin the bad habit of going straight to ChatGPT and asking it to do the heavy lifting. And I think the thing about education that makes it so meaningful is that it's human. It's not just, like you said, a task. There's something deeper going on. There's connections for life being made. There's mentorship. And if we rely too much on AI, we really miss that in the classroom.
Mhm.
And we're just teaching students that it's just about the task, it's just about getting the marks. And so the second thing, using it uncritically, we talked a little bit about digital literacy and making sure that teachers understand questions like, who made this? Do they earn money? What do they use this money to do? Does this encourage good or bad habits in my students? Those, to me, are probably two of the biggest threats, are relying too much on AI and coming to it with an uncritical attitude.
So, I mean, then when we integrate technology, at the same time, we need to teach our students not to like rely on technology, AI, 100%.
That's right.
Right? So, human knowledge, human information should be the first hand.
That's right. Yeah, I read a few days ago that a former Facebook executive said that she no longer encourages parents to teach coding to their students, and is saying that with the rise of AI, these soft skills and interpersonal skills are becoming more and more important, where jobs like software engineers and other kinds of engineers, AI is learning how to do a lot of those things. So she said things like English writing, philosophy, history, the humanities. And I think really teaching our students that it's this human touch and it's what makes us us is becoming more and more rare. And if we can teach our students how to come to AI with this human touch, they'll really stand out in the future.
Yes, you are right. Because sometimes when I also use AI, but that pleasure of doing or knowing is not there.
It's not.
So, the pleasure only comes after I, touch a book, read a book, read an article. I do little bit of work for myself and then little help from AI.
That's right.
So then that pleasure of learning or pleasure of knowing or pleasure of even sharing it with the student, then it comes. Otherwise, from my own experience, when at times I feel like I rely only on AI, then that particular day my class does not go well.
Yeah, it lacks that spark.
Yes, it looks like feel as though somebody else has done it for
That's
you.
right.
That ownership does not come. So our teachers or our students that we are preparing them to be teachers, they need to understand, as you said, that too much reliance on AI is not good. The human touch has to be there.
That's right.
No? Then ownership will come, and not only ownership, but then you grow in your learning.
That's right.
Right? Because AI ease out your work in seconds, in minutes. You get everything what you want, whether it is assessment or like teaching strategy or planning. But then no learning takes place.
That's right.
Right? So as teachers, we need to continue learning. We need to be like, as you said, and lifelong learners. We have to be there. Right. So James, would you suggest some give suggestion for teachers or students? Students means students who are enrolled in our programs, like B.Ed program or M.Ed or M.Phil programs, PhD programs. So students who are enrolled in our teacher education programs, will you give some suggestions or maybe some tips to them of integrating technology in doing their work? And then what ethics should they be focusing on? Like, how can they be ethical users of technology?
Yeah, great question. For teachers, as they pursue continuous professional development, I think having on their minds how to use generative AI in an ethical way is a real important skill. And whether they like it or not, more and more of their students are turning to AI for help with their coursework. And so coming back to this learning together idea of teachers and students learning together, I think in the classroom, showing how teachers and students can learn for their different purposes how to use it in an ethical way together can really create more transparency in the classroom. Not like, oh, we can't use AI, but you can use AI for your lesson plans. That's not fair. And so, yeah, pursuing it in continuous professional development. And then for students, we've talked about skills quite a bit in this podcast, and I really try to tell students that there's tasks and there's skills. You have lots of tasks in your studies, 4 years, 2.5, many tasks, and you complete the task and it's over. But skills are something you have with you for the rest of your life. And so we're doing like a typing initiative, and some students say, I'm too busy for 10 minutes a day. I said, well, just remember, this task will be over, but this skill will serve you for your whole life. And so when we come to AI, are we thinking of it as a skill that will serve us or something that will complete our tasks? And so giving students this vision for learning skills versus just completing their tasks, I think is a real crucial mindset that we need to model, that I want to upgrade my skills, and it's not just I need this to get my job done.
Jim's very important what you were just talking about, like completion of task or learning of skills. And this is like not only we as teacher educators, but then all the teachers, whether teaching in primary, secondary, tertiary level, whatever level teachers are teaching, I believe like they need to understand that teaching of skill is more important than teaching of the task, like completion of task. So normally, like what I have seen or observed is like teachers normally focus on completion of task. And task is normally based on knowing the content, right? And in our education system, we focus less on learning of skills. And I believe the need of the time is equipping students with the skills, and especially skill of using technology correctly.
Yes. History is full of very good examples and very bad examples of technology used well. And in the hands of an ethical person, it can be used for really great things. In the hands of someone who does not have that perspective, it can be used for great destruction and sorrow. And today, those people are in our classrooms, and we have the opportunity to really influence them and say that you can have a great potential for good and for bad. And it really depends on your character and your ethics, because anybody can use the technology. But if we're using it with a bad intention, there is a great potential for bad effects. And so as teacher educators, supervisors, this is a great conversation that we can have about technology.
So thank you, James, for your insightful thoughts. And it's really like, if I summarize our conversation today, is like it's important to use technology. It's important to have know-how of technology, AI. Teachers need to equip themselves with modern trends in teaching, in learning and all that. But that doesn't mean that leaving aside or ignoring what a teacher should be. Means that does not mean excluding books, right? So teachers and students have to have that feel of touching the books, reading from it, preparing lessons. So like what I would say, balance of both.
That's right.
Technology as well as non-technological tools. Both have to be like, merged together. So our teachers are full. They are competent teachers. They are not either like technological expert teachers or non-technological expert teachers.
That's right.
So teachers can't afford to be that, right? Because teachers need to be complete. So there might be some students who would not like to use technology. There might be some students who would like to learn more through other things than technology. They may not have resources. So therefore, if teachers know how to teach all those type of students, they have access, so then only they can relate with those students.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I invite you to summarize your point of view over the topic.
Yeah, first we discussed the importance of technology and education, how there's many emerging technologies and trends. However, the ethical use of it is key. We talked about some challenges and opportunities, challenges of access to technology, challenges of how to use it, and opportunities of public-private partnerships where something like the government, universities, and edtech startups can come together and create some kind of repository of resources like we discussed with India's NROER that they're doing over there. And lastly, we just talked about some final thoughts for teachers and for students of looking at skills instead of just completing the task and always bringing that human touch to our classrooms and not forgetting that thing that makes us different than AI, that our intelligence is not artificial. It's real and we're real. So we should be humans together.
Right. So thank you very much, James. It was pleasure having you here and it was pleasure listening to you. And I hope that together we can make difference in our students' lives. So viewer, I would like to thank you for listening to our conversation. And I would also invite you to visit IOPM.